Hello and namaskar viewers, I am Sanjeev Pandya welcoming you to this week's edition of the Business Talk with Ajay right here on ITV Gold. This show, the Business Talk, brings you what you need to know about certain businesses. Each and every week we pick on those businesses where mostly South Asians are in and they are very successful also. But of course, one need to know that what it takes to run that business. How can you be so successful? And in case if you don't run it very well, then you could fail in that business. So that's all in-depth information that we give it to you right here on ITV Gold in the show, The Business Talk with Ajay, courtesy of Mr. Ajay Kumar, Sai CPA Services MBA, and of course Sai CPA Services, the professional accounting firm located in state of New Jersey with multiple locations. They can assist you in your personal or corporate income taxes or for any tax matter, bookkeeping, payroll, virtual CEO, virtual CFO. It's a one-stop for all your accounting and most importantly, business needs. Because if you leave it to them and then you focus on your business and you continue to do well in your business, and Science CPA Services will take care of all your taxes and the business matters. You can give them a call at 908-380-6876 or visit their website sciencecpaservices.com. With that note, you see Mr. Ajay Kumar on the screen. I'd like to welcome him to the show. Ajay, welcome to the show. Good to have you.
Thank you, Sanjeevji. Good to have you. Thank you for the kind introduction. Sure. And very well said. We provide all sorts of tax and accounting services so you can focus on your business.
That is exactly what I believe that you've been doing, knowing you and Science CPA Services for so many years. All right, so let's talk about 1099 and W-2s. All right, they both are very important because wherever you're working, you're going to need either one of those two to file a tax return. And it's important to file a tax return, as you know that, because if you are living in America, whether you're a green card holder, whether you are a citizen, or whether you are on a different immigration status, you still need to file tax return. Now, two ways you can generate income is that you can prove income is 1099 or W-2. What are the pros and cons of W-2s and 1099s? What industry uses what most, and why do they use that? So we're going to give all the information courtesy of Mr. Ajay in this episode. So 1099 W-2, all right. You can't say which one is better because they both are better depending upon the business. But let's go, W-2 is more familiar. Let's start with 1099.
Absolutely, Sanjeevji. So 1099 NEC, non-employee compensation, is meant for independent contractor. 1099 is meant for ad hoc job, plumber, electrician. We have an accounting firm. The bathroom is not flushing. We call the plumber, we pay them some money. It's out of our regular work. It's out of something that we don't do every day. It's an unusual job. We don't really train the plumber. Plumber comes without training. Plumber comes with their own tools. So when you have an independent contractor, trucking companies typically use independent contractor. Newspaper delivery companies typically use independent contractor. We all use independent contractor. Our loan mover is an independent contractor. So all these people need to have 1099. Please remember, 1099 is typically given out on certain visa. Let's say, for example, H1 visa, visitor visa. You don't really get 1099. You have to have a W-2 job. There are certain type of visas that require you to have employment because the visa is employment based visa. 1099 is mainly for green card, citizenship type of situation where this person, this independent contractor, is working for more than one company, meaning the plumber who is fixing the bathroom for us is not working for Science CPA Services only. This plumber goes around, works for everybody else. Typically, an independent contractor has multiple assignments. It's not one company that's their main source of income. As opposed to W-2, where you're expected to work for one company. We train them. We give them the tools. Say in our case, that will be a laptop. We tell them what to do. We tell them what time to come. We tell them how much their salary, the benefits are going to be. So when you see the control where the business, the employer in this case, the work giver is controlling the behavior, and the behavior could be in terms of training, work hours, salary, when to work, who to work. Meaning, if I hire somebody, I'm expecting that person to be working for me. They can't really say, well, how about if I send my son? How about if I send my friend to work for you? That's not how it works in the employment. Those type of relationship when the business can send anybody. When I call the plumber, do I say, I want to see John? I don't decide that. The company, the plumbing company decide who to send.
Yep.
And in that case, those type of relationships are more 1099 than W2.
All right, so that's a very useful information on 1099. Now let's talk about W2. Most of the corporations, small or mid or large size businesses use W2s. So let's shed some light on W2s.
Absolutely. In a W2, the main thing is when you get the money, when you get the compensation, the salary we call it, there are certain taxes that are deducted upfront, TDS, tax deducted at source. So you will notice there's a social security tax that's deducted. That's around 6.2%. So if your salary is $1,000, you don't really get $1,000. You get probably $850. And then you look at the pay stub, you will notice there's a social security tax, there's a Medicare tax, then there is federal income tax, sometimes it's called FIT, then there is state income tax, then you will see SUI, SDI and FLI. So in total you will see 7 different categories of taxes. If you have opted for 401k, you will see 401k separately, but there are 7 different type of tax categories. You will see where 3 of them are federal tax category and 4 are state tax category. If you have that type of a pay stub, that means you are in a W2 type of relationship. In a typical 1099, they don't really give you any pay stub or any document throughout the year. At the end of the year, a 1099 is issued. Even though W2 is issued at the end of the year as well, but every so often, every period, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, you get something called a pay stub. W2 is nothing but sum total of all the pay stubs that you have received. So the key difference is in a W2, you have certain taxes deducted before the money is given out to you. In 1099, those taxes are not deducted. If you are supposed to get $1,000 on 1099, you do get $1,000. Paying the taxes, the social security taxes, the Medicare taxes, federal income taxes, state income tax, that's your responsibility that you pay at the end of the year when filing the income tax.
All right, very interesting. All right, so that's information on W2, very basic information on W2. As we go along, there will be more information will be given out. But Ajay, do you know what exactly W2 stands for? We all say W2, but what W2 stands for?
I think it's just an IRS form number, but you tell me what it stands for.
It's actually W2 stands for wage and the tax statement.
Right.
As per IRS website, it stands for a wage and tax
That's the
statement. But I don't know how that number 2 came in.
Right.
I have no idea.
Absolutely. So the form number is W2 and the form name
yes,
is wage and income.
So basically it's a wage and tax statement because that piece of paper says everything. You know, your FICA taxes, your state taxes and all the other taxes and deductions and everything
the W2
else.
is supposed to have the FICA taxes as well as the income tax, federal income taxes, state income tax, as well as the unemployment taxes, SUI, SDI and FLI. So 7 different type of taxes are supposed to be shown on a W2.
Besides your exact name and address and a social security number.
Absolutely.
That's important.
Absolutely.
All right. And with that note, check out that W2, that make sure they have your correct social security number because mistakes do happen sometimes, you know, from the HR department, human resource department. And this I'm telling you from not from my experience, but someone that I know from their own experience. So
it's very,
number
very
can
common.
be 32, could be 23.
The biggest, even if you check your W2 and even if you think name, address, social security number is what it's supposed to be, the main problem that we have seen with the W2 is their W4 allowances are not computed right. So if you owe more than $1,000 in taxes while you're filing the taxes, you have a W2 job, your wife has a W2 job, all the taxes are deducted at source, then why do you owe money? If you owe more than $1,000 at the end of the year and you have no business income, then your W2 is not computed right. You have to look at something called W4, a withholding form, an allowance form, where you decide how many allowances you have, how much withholding should be, so the W2 can properly calculate the tax withholding. So if you owe money at the end of the year, you don't have a business income, all your income is after tax, the taxes are deducted at source, please look into W4 form.
Good point. All right, as we have about a minute or a little bit more than a minute left before we go into the break, and before we start a new topic, I just want to ask you a question or two on W2. It is an employee, or a rather taxpayer's responsibility to review all the information on a W2 to see if it's all correct, right? Like I said, slight mistake could cause a problem. My question to you is that when you get a client and when you are getting ready to prepare their tax return, let's say personal tax return, right? Do someone at your firm also verifies W2 first before they start, preparing tax return?
It's very common, and we have to, because and you take a step back. Why do you care? Why do you have to? Because W2 has your social security number. This is how this information is reported to IRS. So while we are doing your personal taxes, if this W2 does not have the right social security number, right information, then the IRS, the state, does not have the right information on you. So when we file your taxes, the tax filing will not be in sync with the IRS information. It's more like, let's say somebody gets a traffic ticket. What they do when they go to the attorney, they call the state, what does the cop know about us? The same thing, we need to know what does the IRS know on you. What information does IRS has? If the W2 does not have the right information, your filing, your personal tax filing, your 1040 will not be in sync with what IRS has on you. So it's extremely important when you are filing the taxes, and even before that, when you get the W2, make sure all your information is correct on the W2.
Okay, that's important stuff. With that note, we're going to take a short break, and after the break, when we come back, we're going to talk on, which is better for the company. W2 is better or 1099 is better for what corporations, what companies? We're going to get more information from Ajay right after these messages. Welcome back to the second half of the Business Talk with Ajay. This weekly show brings you all that you need to know about a business or business related matter. The reason I say business related matter, because this week we're talking about W2s and 1099s. Normally, in this series, series 3, we normally talk about a business category, that what business is really good and how it can be successful. But this time we decided to talk about W2 and 1099. Once again, the show is brought to you by CPA Services, a full-fledged professional accounting firm located in state of New Jersey with multiple locations. As I mentioned earlier, for any tax needs, bookkeeping needs, on top of that, God forbid if there is any IRS tax audit, because if there was a mistake on your W2 or something happened, then it might trigger an audit, and you may get a letter in the mail saying that there is an audit. So CPA Services, their knowledgeable, experienced staff can definitely help you with that IRS tax audit. And the other important stuff is, we are in now almost end of August. We got a few months to go before the end of the year. This is the time that you should be looking at it. What is your income now? Where are you going to end up with the total income? And how can you save on taxes? Where can you invest money? What program allows you to invest money and at the same time you can save on your taxes? This is a very important thing. If you start planning now, it will help you to reduce your tax liability, and for that, CPA Services can also help you. Give them a call at 908-380-6876 or cpaservices.com. All right, Ajay, now you need to tell us what's good for what kind of businesses between 1099 and W2.
Absolutely. So let's look at the cost. What does it cost for the business to give a 1099 or W2? It'll be easier for us to understand which one is better. So when a business gives a W2, it costs 10% extra to the business, because the business has to pay half of the social security, half of the Medicare taxes, some workers' comp insurance, and a few other expenses. So if someone's salary is $1,000, it's costing business $1,100 on an average. So when you have an employee, when you have somebody on W2, as a business, it's costing you 10% extra, whatever salary you are giving to them. If you give them 1099, first, you don't have an obligation to give them any pay stub. You don't have to run the payroll. You don't have to pay them 10% extra. $1,000, here is your $1,000. Paying taxes is your problem. You cannot come to me, my taxes are high, my taxes are low. It is what it is. So not only is less headache, it's much cheaper for the businesses. That's why a lot of these businesses make this mistake, and I call it mistake, to keep people on 1099, because government scrutiny is extremely high. Government decides who is supposed to be on 1099, who is supposed to be on W2. It's really not your decision. It's really not the business decision. Oh, 1099 is 10% cheaper for me. 1099 does not have headache. I should have everybody on 1099. That's not how it works, Sanjeevji. So 1099 is for independent contractor, people where you don't have the control on who is providing the service, where you don't provide the training, you don't provide the tool. There are certain criteria that we discussed in the first half that decides who is 1099, who is on W2. Based on that criteria, the business has to have either W2 or 1099. But in the perfect world, if you had the option, I'm not saying you do, a 1099 would be 10% cheaper than the W2.
1099 would be 10% cheaper than a W2. All right. Let's just discuss a little bit deeper into this
Absolutely.
matter. All right. FICA, known as Social Security and Medicare,
Right.
which is 7.65% for an employee and 7.65% they have to match for an employer.
Right.
Correct? All right. In the W2, it will show that employer pays their portion, just like you say, roughly a 10% it costs. But anyway, 7.65, let's stick with that. Employee pays 7.6%. IRS is happy. It's a perfect paperwork. They got money from the employer and they got money from the employee. On 1099, nothing is mentioned. So that means at the end of the year or during the year, the contractor who got 1099 is responsible to pay full 15% or whatever that is, right?
That's how it is.
Okay.
So you're right. So Social Security is 12.4%. So 6.2% is paid by employees, 6.2% is paid by the employer. Medicare is 2.9%. Half, 1.45% is paid by the employee, 1.45% is paid by the employer. So 7.65 in total is paid by the employee, 7.65 is paid by the employer. In a 1099 situation, this 15.3%, 7.65 plus 7.65 is referred as self-employment taxes. The contractor has the right to subtract some expenses. Let's in our example, you have $1,000 on 1099, you can deduct certain expenses. Let's say going back and forth to the work, buying the laptop, whatever your expenses are, and your expenses are 200. On the remaining 800, you are supposed to pay 15.3%, about $120 as self-employment taxes in lieu of FICA taxes, Social Security tax and Medicare. The question that we are typically asked here, if I'm on 1099, do I qualify for the Social Security benefit or not? Because in their mind, Social Security is not deducted because you're on 1099. On W2, Social Security is clearly deducted. So the answer is yes, of course, you do qualify for Social Security benefit even if you are on 1099, because at the end of the year,
you pay the taxes.
You pay self-employment taxes as long as you're showing some profit.
Your portion, that's right.
No one must be showing some profit though.
No one gets away without paying their own portion, without paying the liability.
Well, the only gray area, and I call it gray area, is when you keep showing the losses.
Yeah.
Meaning your 1099 income is $1,000, but it costed you $3,000. A lot of Uber drivers do that. A lot of these Lyft drivers.
But in generally speaking,
if you have profit on this 1099 Schedule C business, indirectly you are paying into the Social Security fund through self-employment taxes, which is 15.3%.
All right. So now my next question to you is that how does a person A decides whether that person should be an employee or should be a contractor?
Well, it depends on your situation. So employee is, for an employee perspective, from the person perspective, being an employee comes with lesser headache. You don't have to worry about forming your own company. If you want to be on 1099, you yourself do not want to be on 1099. You form an S corporation, and it has to be S corp, otherwise it will defeat the whole calculation. You form an S corporation for yourself. You get into a corp to corp contract, and then you pay yourself a salary under your S corp. And the gray area, the benefit is when you get a 1099 under your name, you have to pay self-employment taxes on the whole profit. Let's say your salary is $100,000. The 1099 is $100,000. You are claiming $20,000 in expenses. It doesn't matter, your expenses do not change S Corp or LLC. So in this example, if your expenses are $20,000, your 1099 is $100,000. If the 1099 is coming to you or your LLC, you pay self-employment taxes on $80,000 on the whole profit. But if you make an S corporation and you run the payroll, a small payroll for yourself, $30,000, you pay the self-employment tax or the payroll tax only on $30,000, not on $80,000. So it creates a tax arbitrage. So net profit minus the salary, that amount does not pay any self-employment tax or any payroll taxes. That's why you will find a lot of people moving into 1099. From an employee perspective, from a person perspective, having a 1099 is not a bad idea. Not only you can claim the expenses, but you can avoid large portion of self-employment taxes or the payroll taxes, but you have to do it right. You cannot just get the 1099 under your name, it will create problem. You have to have an S corporation, put yourself on the payroll for your S corporation and have a corp to corp relationship.
So you prefer 1099 contractor should have a S corporation? Is it better than LLC?
100%. In LLC, you pay self-employment taxes on 100% of the income. In S corporation, you pay self-employment taxes or payroll taxes only on the wages, only on the payroll amount. You don't pay the self-employment tax on the whole profit. Let's say the profit is 80,000 in our example. Total 1099, 100,000, expenses 20, your profit is 80,000. If you had an LLC, you will pay self-employment tax on 80,000. If you had an S corporation, in 80,000, you put yourself on a small payroll, 30,000. You pay payroll taxes only on the payroll amount, on 30,000. On the remaining 50,000 out of the 80,000, the profit, payroll is 30, the remaining profit is 50. On the 50,000, you are not paying any self-employment taxes, any payroll taxes.
And you can still claim some deductions, right?
In both
Such
cases.
as business expense
absolutely,
and this
absolutely.
and
You can claim
whatever.
the same deduction. So in the example that we have, the 1099 is 100,000, the expenses are 20,000, which remain same, LLC or S Corp. Expenses are what the expenses are. They are not changing based on the. So you can claim the 20,000 of expenses in either structure. In S Corp, by putting yourself in a smaller payroll, you create a tax arbitrage. You create a difference where the net profit minus the salary, that amount does not attract any payroll taxes or any self-employment taxes.
All right, interesting, very interesting. Quickly, very quickly, we have less than a minute to go. What protections do employees have when they get W-2s?
Well, a lot of protection. First, you have to be paid a minimum wages.
Right.
When you are a contractor, I can hire you for $100 and make you work for 10 hours. Nobody can question it. In New Jersey, the minimum wage is $15.13. Every state will have a minimum wages. If you are fired, you will have the right to unemployment. If you get injured, you have workers' comp insurance. You have certain way that you have to be treated per the workers' law. You cannot be discriminated. You have to be given certain ethical environment. So when you have a W-2 type of situation, it helps from an employee perspective in terms of work environment.
It also helps to get a loan, car loan, mortgage, or
absolutely,
anything.
because now you can show consistent income. You know this much income is guaranteed to come to me. When you are a 1099, 1 month you are making 10,000, next month there is no guarantee.
All right, viewers, with that note, we're going to leave you 1099 versus W-2. What's better for you? Might as well look into it. Might be late for this year, but for next year. And we thank Ajay for his time and for his advice and for his guidance and information sharing with us every week. In this show, The Business Talk with Ajay on ITV Gold. I am Sanjeev Pandya, wishing you all happy and smiley days ahead. Until we meet again, so long.
Thank you.